on the Howard Center website. And I'm going to start recording. Oh, Kara got it. Awesome. So before we get going with the talk, I'd like to introduce the collective for those who are new to us. We're a supportive group of artists who have lived experience with substance use and mental health challenges, who get together to connect, share our work, plan events, and put on exhibitions. So we host these virtual talks every month, and the next talk in our series will be with Tepi Zupo on October 26th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. If you'd like to be added to our mailing list to receive notices of these events, as well as our shows and other Arts Collective activities, you can send your email address to me privately in the chat, or you can email us at artscollective@howardcenter.org. And everyone with the lived experience I mentioned before is welcome to participate in our activities. So just a quick note about the structure of today's talk. There'll be plenty of time to ask questions, but we do ask that everyone keeps their questions and comments brief so that we have time to get to everyone. And so now I want to introduce our guest artist, Nikki Laxer. Nikki is a self-taught artist born and raised in Vermont. She discovered the magic of watercolor in 2013 and has been hooked ever since. She's blended watercolor pigments with her talent of detailed ink illustrations to create a line of whimsical animal-inspired work, has worked with acrylics to create celestial paintings, and is currently exploring surrealism by experimenting with hand-cut collage. She is also an art curator for the South End Arts and Business Association and the Space Gallery, where she also has a studio. So we're really excited to have her with us today. Thank you so much for coming, Nikki. I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Hi, everyone. This is one of my first in-person talks, so I'm very excited for this opportunity. And I guess, what shall I start with? What should I talk about?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Does anyone have certain questions about kind of showing your art in the community and getting started?
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some of your art as well, Nikki, if you have it shareable there.
Oh, sure. I'm in my studio right now where I do a lot of the painting. So behind me, I have a large piece I'm working on, which is like a really big full moon, night sky horizon with trees. I have a lot of half-finished projects in here, which I've been finding is pretty exciting because I can kind of move from one thing to another if I'm not sure what to work on. I'm starting to incorporate some painting with collage. I don't know if you can see this. So I'm doing some acrylic painting background and then collaging on top, and then I'll be layering more and more imagery on top of it. So that's been a little new for me, combining the two mediums of collage and painting. I should probably, you might be familiar with like this work. I used to put out a lot of greeting cards and prints. So these were watercolors that I did, a lot of animal themes. But I'm starting to move away from that a bit and creating more art that speaks more personally to me through texture and colors and human form imagery. That's kind of what I've been working on mostly lately.
Where do you find all these the things that you're cutting out, like people or the background even? You must have tons of magazines.
Yeah, I have, I think I could probably bring this computer with me. So I have been collecting books, and I've always loved like old books, picture books. I've been collecting them for many years and then just started cutting a lot of them up recently. So this, I have a closet space where it's a little dark in there, where I collage. So bookshelves full of magazines and books. A lot of people gift me old magazines that are kind of collecting dust. And a lot of people have tried collage and for whatever reason collected their own, pieces. I've been gifted collage packets, collage folders from people's parents that may have passed on. So that's been really powerful and inspiring to look through all this imagery that other people collect and try to create something out of it myself. Lots of collecting, lots of searching, which is kind of fun too. It's a fun process of collages.
It is.
The hunt.
Reminds me of my mother's, all that she collected. She collected she didn't do collage. She did pretty much all watercolor. But she collected magazines and pictures, and she also worked as an illustrator for Women's Day back in the 40s, and her mother worked for Women's Day as illustrators for the clothing of that time. But I don't want to take up your time. When I saw all of your magazines and your collections like that, it's like a reminder of my mother.
Well, we're all trying to, be inspired by what we see. It helps us to create our own work. And when you see an image or, a picture, a color, anything that kind of sparks something in you, you want to explore that a little more. So I bet a lot of artists have reference and a lot of things tacked up around their creative spaces to kind of use to inspire work.
I
was
have a
wondering-
lot of stuff, but no,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just wondering, like, kind of what it looked like for you moving from medium to medium, like, kind of what, like, how did you get into collage from acrylics or, that kind of thing?
So I used to do a lot of illustration, really detailed ink work, animal portraits. And something about like the pandemic, I just started collaging during like when we were in isolation, and the materials were at home, they were easily accessible, and I was having a hard time illustrating or painting what I wanted to, like couldn't draw a stick figure for the life of me. And it, that was frustrating. So I started cutting up paper and assembling imagery in a way that, calmed me. Sorry, I'm not so used to Zoom, so things are happening on my screen right now. So I started collaging just a couple of years ago, and I have not been able to stop. The process, the tactileness of cutting paper, ripping it, using an X-Acto knife or scissors has been really therapeutic for me. Even just the sound of paper ripping, I enjoy. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I was also fairly recently diagnosed with like late stage chronic Lyme, and some of that, what's come of that is some neurological things. So it's been a little hard for me to illustrate detailed work that I'm used to. My hands get really shaky, and so when I'm cutting, if I mess up, I can just cut it a little differently. But mostly, I moving from painting to collage back to painting, it's been a little confusing for me because I used to just focus on one specific medium. But I'm enjoying jumping around. I feel like a lot of times I've heard from artists say that they have a hard time finding their style or their specific medium. And really it's just about creating like what it feels in that moment to create, and use the materials you have around to express whatever it is you're needing to express, if you know that what it is or not. So I've given myself more permission in the last couple years to play more with my art, and not have it be so set in stone that what I'm creating, I want to sell it. And that's been a really incredible thing for me as an artist, to understand that and allow myself to do that.
I'm sorry to hear that you have this condition, with the Lyme disease. I'm sorry, this is probably really hard for you. But I have to say, with your X-Acto knife, I've watched those videos that you put on Instagram. I'm impressed. I mean, this is so detailed, and you have to be so exact sometimes when you're cutting out leaves or little flowers or so. Incredible.
Thank you.
Doesn't
It comes
look
with
like
a lot
you
of
have a shaky hand. It looks very good.
it comes with a lot of shakiness, but I think yeah, something about controlling the tool, and it's been really helpful to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, it looks good. And the other thing, I'm you know, what you just mentioned, jumping around from medium to medium, or different things, different styles. I have noticed that too with me. Galleries want that I'm an artist too, for those who don't know yet. They want me to find a style, you know, like a certain kind of way where I make my art, so they can see this is my work, you know. So they don't like me jumping around from like this pattern and then this technique and this different style, but this is also what I enjoy. So I kind of agree with you, you know. This is, I have an idea and then I want to do it, and it doesn't really, it's not probably the same technique that I used previously, but this is not what galleries want. They want something that, you know, has a thread to it, and you know, this is her work, you know, and that's something I struggle with.
When you're creating art to use it as, you know, as an income, as part of your income, there is a really hard balance of, you know, okay, I'm creating this artwork to obviously make money off of it, is usually a goal. But we're also creating this work because we have to. As artists, I feel like if we don't express or create, it kind of boils up inside of us a bit, and we get anxious, or at least I do get anxious, and we need to create. So finding that balance of creating your work for yourself, using your own inspiration, and then also making it marketable is a tough one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's something I kind of moved away from with the watercolor animal illustrations I had before. You may have seen them around town. I have the greeting cards in some stores. So it's a little more commercial. You know, you look at it and you see, oh, it's a lion. It's I like it or I don't. When I'm doing collage and I'm working with human form, and just a lot more emotion is going into my work right now. And because I've allowed myself to not only focus on how can I market this, how can I turn this into, you know, will stores want this? I think I'm producing better work than I have before, and it's more meaningful to me, and I think it's driving me to create more and more. So the balance.
Totally, I totally get this. I do a lot just because I want to make that money, so I can buy more glass, for example, or I can buy my material. But this is not exactly what I enjoy. I just enjoy it because I just do it because I know it sells better.
Yeah.
And so I understand, you know, there's times where you just want to create just for that, you know, and don't know if that will sell or if people would like to buy that. It's a tough line.
Nikki, Gabby mentioned your Instagram feed, and I've been looking at that as well. Do you mind if we share some of the video? I love how you incorporate video footage of your technique.
I find I get a lot of good feedback from the people who follow my work. It's I talk to a lot of people coming through the gallery, and we have really active studio spaces here. We have 13 studios that we rent out at the Space Gallery month to month. So artists have 24-hour access to them. So when the public comes in, they're able to explore these open studio spaces and see the mess on the table or a work in progress. And people who don't really consider themselves artists or who don't create, and they see a finished product, they're like, how does that happen? How does an artist get to a blank piece of paper to this? So
Yeah.
I like showing those process videos because of that, because it's just part of it all.
Are you okay with us sharing a little
Yeah,
bit of that
definitely.
here?
Yep.
Here, I'll just, can you all see that video?
Yeah.
So I think that cutout originally took me 20 minutes. And then I used a program to do like a little fast forward. Because I don't think anyone would sit there for 20 minutes and watch me. Maybe they would. It put some good music behind it. It's a little calming to watch.
No, it's amazing to watch. Oh, this one here. Yes, I remember that. That was amazing.
When you do like extra cutting that isn't like around a form, do you ever like trace it or like trace it first and then cut it, or like those were so like smooth looking? It was amazing.
Yeah, I have that piece right here. I was playing with it last night to find some type of background for it. No, I guess I go into those cuts as kind of like if I was doodling. So just going with it any which way it wants to. I'm like dancing with the X-Acto knife, I guess. And I don't know if you can see. So this is the finished cutout.
Here, I can stop the share. Hold on 1 sec. There we go.
So this is the finished cutout of that piece. And I'm gonna try to put her behind this moon with like a black sky, like the universe behind it. So you can really see the cutouts. I don't know if you can see this very well. But,
Yeah.
You see it pretty well.
I would like to do more of these type of cutouts because it is very free form and yeah, it's kind of like doodling, which is always fun. We always doodle like when we talk on the phone or take notes in a class, right?
So Nikki, did you draw that figure, or was that from a magazine and then you?
Yep, these are all from found imagery. So I do just analog collage, which is hand cut from magazines, books. I'd love to work with a local photographer who photographs human form and use some of their imagery. But right now I'm just using what I find in old books and magazines.
Great.
I like how color coordinated everything is in your work.
When as a painter, I'm self-taught, so I never really learned color theory or composition. And in my paintings, I always struggled with that. I struggled with color and making color work visually, in my brain anyway. And when I started collaging, I realized that I really did have a really good sense of composition and colors that work well together. And that's been really fun to learn about myself and play with.
Mhm.
This is a nebula I'm working on. It's almost done. It's taken a really long time to finish it, so I'll add little bits here and there. And I use scientific NASA imagery to create these nebulas, so they actually exist up there in the galaxy.
And then you use it for collaging or just on its own?
No, that's going to be an actual painting. I have it on an easel here. So it's a pretty good sized one.
Mhm.
And it's going to go along with, I have this nebula I painted a while back. I'm hoping to do a pretty good series of them. I think they'd look really fun all together in a big show maybe, or somewhere on a wall.
Do you want me to
Can't hear
show
you.
any more, Nikki?
Hmm?
Do you want me to show any more of your Instagram page? It's up to you.
Sure, whatever y'all want to see. This I was, can you still hear me over it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This I worked with a local Burlington record company. They are a company down on off of Pine Street, and they press vinyl records. So they have this vinyl discards, ones that either don't press properly or a little defective, and they've been giving me little stacks of them to collage on. So these are actually vinyl records I'm collaging onto that were made locally. I'm having a lot of fun with those.
That's
That is
great.
neat. That's great, yeah.
You do other collaborations too, right?
Yeah, I did a collaboration recently with a local artist, Steve Sharon. I can show you, grab it off the wall. So he provided this really beautiful acrylic painted canvas. I wish the lighting was a little better in here. And then asked me to collage on top of it, which was really awesome of him. I'd never done a collaboration before. So I did one with him and another one of his studio mates, Will. So they're doing paintings on canvas, and then I'm collaging on top of them. So I find imagery that kind of works with the colors.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
It's beautiful.
hope it finds a home.
Likely will.
So that's been fun collaborating with other artists. It kind of pulls you out of your comfort zone a bit, creating art on top of someone else's. You don't want to mess it up, but you also want to add to it in a way that kind of opens it up a little more.
Nikki, can I ask you a question about copyright?
Yeah, good question.
So yeah, I'm just curious about, because I've been doing just in the last year getting into collage,
Mhm.
and I generally treat the pages until the ink is kind of, the image is not discernible anymore. And I
Yeah.
always sort of thought that if you could still see the image, you were violating some kind of copyright.
It's really
laws, so-
tough. There's not really concrete information out there. I've talked to a lot of artists about this too, that work in collage. There are, theories that if you change a certain percent of it, then it's okay. I try to be good about, there are some books I have that are copyrighted, and I don't use those unless I'm really cutting it up, like you said, where you can't tell much of the original image. Magazines, it's tough. And I think it might, a lot of collage artists I've talked to are wondering the same thing, and done all of our research, and it's there's a fine line of using someone else's imagery in a way, changing it enough, and hope that they don't get upset by it. Using magazines is helpful. It's a tough one that's probably going to need a little more research, I think.
Thanks.
Yeah. Someone told me if there was like I didn't check the accuracy of this, but images before like a certain date, if they weren't copyrighted, there's some copyright law before a certain date, and I can't remember what that is at this moment, but.
Yeah.
I just glued that one up last night.
Stunning colors.
Once I started collaging, I got really curious about it and came upon some articles and some research done that it's well known and documented that during times of like widespread distress and even other pandemics, artists have turned to collage for creating, artists that had never collaged before. So I want to do a little more research about that because I find that really fascinating. What I get out of it is very therapeutic with the tactile, with the cutting and the searching, the gluing. But there's something about it, something about looking at imagery and cutting it up in a way and reassembling it to just feel or make some other sense or make no sense at all. I want to know why people are so drawn to that.
If I could just add, I think there's maybe a sense of control that you are sort of putting right onto that image and creating your own world from it. So
I would agree with that. Absolutely. At a time where you feel so out of control, and that's not even during just a pandemic. We all have, many times in our lives that we just don't feel like we have much control over things. And yeah, you're right. Taking a piece of imagery and, I'm cutting it, I'm gluing it and deciding to place it right here. And that feels good in this moment. That goes a little deeper than just making that art. Luke, I think, I think it was Tom. I saw some of his work recently. Luke, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to ask, do you think about like the moon as a symbol, or because I'm doing like a deep dive on symbolism right now
Okay.
I have a book that I got from the library. It's called Signs and Symbols, like an encyclopedia. And so I'm and it provides like a lot of just information about different symbols or objects or whatever that have been significant in cultures and stuff for like, meaning and things like that. So I was just wondering, for you, do you think about the imagery you use as being symbolic, or are you drawn to it for other reasons?
I'm definitely drawn to the moon and celestial things. Not only is it just very visually, pleasing to look at, but it's got an energy and power about it that is kind of really undescribable as a human, knowing that all of this exists up there and we are all just made of that same stardust, really. The moon itself has been a big part of my art for a while. I'm very drawn to it, as many people are. I feel, you feel that when the full moon's there, it's, at least for me, I'm feeling different. I feel that pull, it pushes and pulls tides of the ocean. So how is it not moving us when we're mostly made of water? So I do use a lot of celestial stuff in my work, because I think we're really so much more connected to it than we think about on a daily basis. And
Yeah, cool.
my daughter and I howl at the full moon every month. Just become a fun thing for us. And it's up there every night, you know, it's there.
You're not the only one who howls.
Huh?
I said, you're not the only one who howls.
Yay.
Oh,
I think we all need
maybe
to let
not
that out. Instagram doesn't like nipples, so I gotta
I was just saying.
cover nipples.
That's great.
They allow a
What do
lot
they
of
do
other
with men?
things that are worse than seeing some nipples, but ugh.
Like some men have pretty,
So this was different, the one that we just saw with
the last one.
the
before
last
that,
one, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
this-
so
Was different from your other work.
yeah, that's a painting I dived into when I first got my studio space here. And you know, being an illustrator and considering myself, you know, I enjoy painting and I like painting. I was missing it after this, like, you know, a year of collaging and feeling anxiety about painting again. So a studio mate of mine, Jeff Bruno, he kind of pushed me a little bit and gave me a little challenge, like, why don't you just use one color and white and see what happens? So this painting, that's what I did. I chose one color and white, and that's what happened. And that I think really got me painting again, that just getting out of that, getting out of my own head about it, I guess.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you want to share a little bit about like your curatorial experience and like working with SIBA and the Women's Festival.
Sure. I was approached by the director of Women's Fest, you know, a couple years ago to take it over, and that was really mind-blowing to me. I've been showing work there as an artist for about 6 years, and for her to give me this opportunity to keep it going was really, I feel very honored about that. So that's been a fun and kind of tough project during these times, to shift it so much and still support as many of these, you know, Vermont artists and makers as I can during the holiday season. I think I'll learn things as I go with that one every year. The curation, being the curator over at SIBA and assisting at the Space Gallery, has been incredible. I've worked with and talked to so many artists over the years, hanging their artwork here, showing their work for the first time, trying to understand their process and getting it out there. And that's really kind of what it's about, is supporting these artists, and how do we make you feel comfortable sharing and showing your work? Because it is important if you're making it for yourself or for others, and you want to share it. It's been a huge privilege, or, you know, a huge honor for me to help with that. So still dipping my toes in, learning a lot about that,
But you did a great job last year with the Women's Festival.
oh, thank you. Definitely learned how to make a website pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'm not so tech
Me too,
savvy.
actually. I had to make one. Yeah, I had one, but it wasn't available for selling. So that was a challenge for me too.
I guess in a way it was a fairly good push for a lot of artists and makers to learn about different outlets to move their work if they're trying to use it as an income. You know, you do need an online presence. That is the kind of the way we're evolving as humans. And So I think it was a good opportunity for everyone to kind of decide to jump in on that or not.
True.
It's not the fun part of art making, but
Yeah.
Tom, I believe I see some artwork in the background of yours. And I hung one of your pieces at the Maltex building, I believe. And gosh, it's incredible. You do a lot of layers and depth to your pieces. You incorporate mixed media, collage and illustration. And I was just blown away by the detail.
Well, thank you very much. It means a lot.
Are you
Sorry,
using?
sorry to correct you, Nikki, but it was actually the Innovation Center, because I
Thank
met
you.
you when I dropped off all the work for the
Oh my
Howard Center
goodness,
Arts
hello.
Collective. Yeah,
You're right. It's the Innovation Center. There's a
Yeah.
lot of buildings still in my head from Art Hop. The
I can
wildness
totally
of Art Hop.
imagine. That was
Yes,
a
Tom,
lot of work.
It's at the Innovation Center on the second floor.
Yeah.
It was so fun to hang all those pieces, to see the variety of everyone who contributed a piece to that.
Yeah, it was fun, and you were great to work with. I appreciate all the help you did, because usually we have to hang it ourselves, and so that was sort of a nice break.
There is a lot of moving parts to getting that artwork up there. The installation it's a process. It's a lot of work. But we wouldn't be able to do it without the artists submitting work and creating and wanting to share it. That's sometimes the hardest part, is creating something and then being ready to share it. And I think it's important because people want to see it. People need to see it.
I helped set up the art for 6 years for a juried art show in Anchorage, Alaska. I
Oh,
fly 800 miles south, and then it was with Anchorage for a Rendezvous. It's been going on since 1935, but so it's like the 10th biggest festival in the United States, winter festival. But juried art was just one little facet of it, but it was fun. It was great fun.
yeah. A lot of times curating a show or curating an event with art, a lot of people come and see the art on the wall and take in however they're going to take it in. As the person meeting with each one of these artists, I feel like I'm holding a lot of space for people who are creating. When they show up, they might be showing work for their very first time and are really anxious, and being able to be there and support them has meant a lot to me on a very emotional level. And sometimes people might bring work in that they're showing something really vulnerable in their work, and so the mood, and every time I meet an artist, it's a very different feeling of what they need in that moment, and that's been, I think, my favorite part about curating and helping artists in that sense is you all, the people creating. It's inspiring and at times overwhelming. We have so many different emotions, and as creatives, it's we got a lot to share. So I've been proud of myself being able to hold space for that. And yeah.
Nikki, I have a question about some of your work. I noticed, or maybe it was a series that you did where you seem to have removed the heads of people and replaced it with everything from flowers to animal heads. And maybe I can find that section that I note. Oh, here. Yeah. Was it a series? And also, what did it mean to you? What was going on for you in the beheading of these characters?
Oh gosh, I I really, really do like beheading humans and 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 creating. I personally feel like, yes, I'm human, but I'm drawn to animals and plants and nature and all these feelings, all these emotions that can come with that. So when you take a human head off that doesn't have like facial expression, but you give it this other type of imagery that still feels like it has growth or decay. I'm working on a series right now with flowers that are wilting, because keeping the human body but having that imagery as the head, I don't know, for me it all kind of works. It comes together and still has a really big sense of feel to it. And animals on human bodies is just really fun. We're all animals, right?
That's right.
I love these. I love this concept of the flowers replacing the human head.
I started doing a couple of them the other night, just like animals on human bodies.
Did this already.
It's kind of playful in a sense too,
Wow.
The background did you paint the background on this one here?
No, so I acquired these humongous Cosmos books during like a 1-month period when I first started collaging. I ended up finding one at a thrift store. Someone found one in their storage unit. And then I found one in a dumpster on a rainy day. I actually pulled it out of a dumpster, and it was wet. And so I have these 3 humongous Cosmos books that has just the most incredible, colorful imagery to use as backgrounds. I feel really lucky to have those because that's really the type of work I like. I like working with spacey things. I'm excited to start incorporating more painting and illustration along with the collage. I'm kind of excited for this winter to dive in a little deeper with that.
So in one your collages, is there always something a little bit of yourself in there? Do you put some of your emotions in there, or just cutting out and putting together what you think looks nice and just fits together? Or is this always very sometimes very subjective?
I think all art is really subjective. For me, most of the pieces I create, certain ones definitely have some deep feels in them. And whether that comes off to the viewer or not, I always hope that my art allows people to feel what they need to feel in that moment when they're viewing it. But there are definitely some pieces, the ones with human form especially. I don't have a straight idea when I go into collaging work. I just find images that speak to me when I see them. It's just a feeling I get when I see it. And they kind of come together. I have a lot more things cut out than I have glued for sure because of that. But as I'm working on a piece, yeah, there's definitely a lot of me in it for the collage. And that's new for me. That's, illustrating like cicadas and giraffes and things like that, or pet portraits. I'm not putting a lot of my soul into that work, putting technique and time and energy. But some of this collage work, yeah, I'm definitely pouring some feels in it. Or cutting some feels out of it, I guess you could say. Yeah. I want to start this winter hosting just some small collage nights where anyone can come and cut up some paper and feel that for themselves, you know, the moving of imagery and gluing things down and the searching of you know, things that speak to them, and the gathering. Really, it's, you know, we're all missing that a bit. Even being like an introvert myself, we still need a little connection, and through art, I find is the best way. So I'm hoping to do that this winter, host a, I don't know, bi-weekly Queen City collage night or something. I don't know. I'll come up with something.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it sounds fun. So let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
We've got about 10 minutes left. So if anyone has any burning questions they've been holding on to, now's a good time.
Nikki, Susanna here, you said that you started around 2013. Did you do any art before that, or how did you just start?
I've always been really creative since I was little, but never even took like high school art classes, or I didn't go to college for art. So really started focusing on it about 8 or so years ago. I think I drew something for a friend and it just kind of exploded a bit more from there. And then I got a studio space here at the Space Gallery. I went to my very first art hop about 8-ish years ago. Came into the Space Gallery, saw an empty spot, met Christy Mitchell, who's the owner of the Space Gallery and the director of SIBA. And it kind of all started from there. And so this place is like my second home. So finding a little sense of community in your art process, if you can do that, and it seems like you all are, this series is really great. That helps to drive more creativity for me, is being surrounded by other creatives who are struggling just like I am mentally, in a sense, or, you know, we're all a little hard on ourselves when we create, or getting great, you know, positive feedback in a moment is helpful. So no, I didn't create much before 8 or so years ago, and now I can't stop. It is me.
That's
it's
great.
Part of me.
Oh yeah, been there. It's been a while since I painted, actually, but when I was in Alaska, I was very prolific, and the rest of my life growing up prolific. Now I have a space of time. I need to get back into it. So hopefully someday when I get settled. But I'm almost ready to pick up that pad and start, you know, doing something.
You can do it, Susanna.
Yeah, you can.
Or I provide all the old stuff.
I have another question, but I want to make sure other people have an opportunity who haven't asked if they do. So I'll pause for a second. So as I mentioned earlier, Nikki, I've been doing collage for just under a year now, and I'm really into it, like so excited. And my question is something I'm struggling with, and I just wondered how, if you struggle with this, or if it maybe not at all, but if you do, how do you overcome it? I often have a bunch of pieces out on the boards that I use to paste down on, and I'll move them around and I'll think I've got it the way I like it, I'll paste it down, and then I'm like, "Ugh, I don't know. It doesn't feel quite right." And then I'll go over it with another layer and I'll look at it and I'm still not sure. And I'll add something, subtract something. And I guess it's maybe the, universal question with artists, like, how do you know when how long does it take you to get the right pieces of paper down together? Do you
It
go
takes
back
a
and forth?
while.
Does it really? Okay.
It
Do you
really
stare at
does.
it? Do you walk in and out of the room? Do you
Oh,
stare
yeah.
at it for hours? Like,
Oh yeah, and I'll move. There will be so many renditions of a piece before I finally. It sounds like you do layers, so you're doing mixed media layers on top.
I
You
am.
have the opportunity to change it at will. Right
Yes.
now, I've been doing a lot of work where it's like once it's glued and it's down, that's the piece.
Right.
So I have a hard time committing to the glue is what I call it, little glue commitment. And I have as you saw in the little closet, I have pieces pinned to the wall with like sewing pins everywhere because I cut and assemble a bit more than I glue. So you're right, that is a very like universal artist question of like, when do you know it's done? Even with painting, as I'm painting these nebulas, I get to a point where I'm like, okay, it looks good. If I overwork it, it could look very different.
Mhm.
Well, that's what's really fun about collage is it can look so different so quickly too. Just moving a piece of imagery around in an instant, it's changed. So
True.
there's a lot of decision making, which is not easy.
Do you sometimes ask other artists or other people for input?
Sometimes, like if a studio mate's in and I'm struggling with a piece, I'll say, what do you think about this? What's it missing? Or, and that's helpful. I have some really awesome studio mates here that are very helpful in those moments.
Because I do that a lot. I ask other people what they think, from a different perspective, because
Yeah.
I might like it, but then especially when I try to sell something, maybe other people have other ideas or don't like what I'm seeing.
I've been using Instagram a lot because I'm not, compared to like other really well-off artists who are making it work for them online, I'm not super active on Instagram. So I try to stay engaged. I try to stay engaged and keep people engaged. So I will ask silly little questions in like the stories. Like I'll put 2 ideas down and have them vote or something like that. And it's really fun to get that feedback from the community, especially when I was so used to doing markets, which we're not having so many right now. Feedback is helpful.
It is. It is always hard for me to go on Instagram and I'm following you, but I don't think I would be able to do this many posts, or I don't know, I feel not confident about this.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of segue to a question that we ask a lot of artists. Like, how do you sort of build that following over the years? Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I think just really sharing your work. Not everyone likes my work, and some people do, and sharing it gives you that opportunity for people to discover what you're working on, decide to follow along. The Instagram, I don't like computer stuff. I don't care for social media a whole ton, but it's working for artists if you can allow it to, and kind of filter it in a way that stays positive for you. Like social media can be a little bit of a drag in that sense. So having a focus, if you want to share your art, doing so will slowly kind of build up. We have a really strong art, support, like our community here really supports the arts, and they're following, and they want to see what we're creating here in Vermont. And it's not just like the traditional Vermont farm landscapes. They want to see what people are really feeling. A lot more people have been drawn to other works besides just the traditional cows and landscapes that are coming out of Vermont. So we just got to share it. That's how you get, a following, and that's hard. That's scary. It's so many things. So
Is Instagram your main platform, Nikki, or do you use Facebook or anything else?
I have Instagram set up so whatever I post on Instagram automatically goes to Facebook, but to be
Okay.
honest, I completely ignore Facebook.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's too many tabs open in my brain.
Sure.
So I have it kind of working for me in a sense like that. I don't find Facebook to be very user friendly with like messages when people comment and message on things. So right now it's there, but I mostly use Instagram.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And engaging in the community, looking out for calls to artists, art openings, art closings. If you can make it out to those, or if you see an artist, a call to artists to submit work, dig down deep and submit something. And that kind of gets you started, and you go to that opening and you have a piece on the wall and you engage and talk to whoever is either putting the show together or the community coming through to see it. And it sparks things. It starts those connections. So.
That's it. That's actually a really good idea. I'm just kind of looking at Colleen and Sarah right now, because we put on our own shows several times a year, but responding to another exhibition's call for work would be a great way for us as a community to engage and promote our work without actually having to put the show on ourselves,
Yeah. So it's 1:00 now. Does anyone have a final question they want to throw out? All right.
Nikki, I just want to say, it looks like you have a halo around your head with the moon in the
Oh.
background.
Good positioning.
I didn't even mean that. I was trying to cover the boobs. I got big boobs back there, so I was trying to cover that.
I just want to thank you very much for your generous sharing of your techniques and your thoughts and feelings and your experiences. It's really nice to hear authentic people talk about their creativity. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Great.
This was a very comfortable space to do my first kind of artist talk. I got some work to do, but it was fun. I appreciate all of you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming, especially you, Nikki. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Is there anywhere before we go that you'd like to point us to see more of your work or purchase it?
Yeah, if you all are local here, so I open the gallery to the public, the Space Gallery in the Soda Plant. We're off of Pine Street. I open it to the public on Friday and Saturdays. So we have open hours from 12 to 5. So come through, see some art. We have over, I want to say 60 different artists' works on the wall right now. And so you can see my studios, you can come ask questions, and mostly Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you,
Definitely.
Nikki.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Great.
Nikki.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Peace.
Great, please.